folks, Ariel over here. What I am doing today is getting potatoes ready to plant. If you saw the last video, you probably know that I've got pretty much everything else planted in the garden, even though you can't see much growing yet. And as soon as it warms up enough to take some frost covers off and stuff, I want to go over a little bit of what else I planted and how and so on. But the only thing I've left to plant is potatoes. And so what I'm doing right now is getting them ready to plant. So these are excited to grow. You have probably had potatoes look like this at some point in your life that when you didn't want them to, when you were wanting to eat them, and they started to sprout. Now, on that note, it is best to start either with your own potatoes, say from the year before, or a seed potato variety, because if you buy the ones at regular, potatoes at the grocery store, they have probably been treated with an anti-sprouting chemical to keep them from looking like this, because most people don't want to eat a potato that looks like that, because for one, as these sprouts start to grow, they suck the nutrients out of the potato itself, and so the potato's getting a little mushy. So it wouldn't be very delicious to eat anymore. It would certainly be edible, but it wouldn't be very tasty. And so, you don't want them doing that in your grocery store if you want to sell them to people to eat. But if they're treated with something like that, check out this guy. He was in a hurry to get growing. If they're treated with something like that, they won't sprout. Maybe they would eventually, but I have tried that before, and I've had the potato chunks sit there in the ground literally all summer long and not ever do a thing. So to prevent a crop failure like that, make sure you get something that, if it's not already going haywire like these are, at least is not treated with an anti-sprouting agent. No, they're not for you. I don't know if the camera can see Bradley's sticking his nose in there, checking the potatoes out. So I actually have a couple kinds here, and I want to sort them out. I usually plant Yukon Gold potatoes, a red potato, and a white potato. There are, I think, hundreds of potato varieties, actually. But most grocery store potatoes are all the same ones. Kennebec is the most popularly planted variety there is, but I enjoy the different colors. Yukon Golds are probably my personal favorite, but they don't store particularly well, so I grow some of them, but I grow some others for storage. So what I'm actually doing here right now is, the eyes on a potato are really easy to find when they're growing 6-inch long sprouts like that one was, or even shorter sprouts. But even if these weren't sprouting like that yet, you could plant just a whole potato and it would grow, but there's multiple little eyes on a potato. Let's see if I can find one that's a good example. This one's not too bad. So if you can see, this potato is growing sprouts here, 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 there, whole bunch there, there, and a few there. Now, technically each one of those would grow a whole new plant. So to get as many plants as I can spread out across my bed, I'm going to cut these up. Each chunk has to have at least one of these eyes in it that is trying to sprout. It can have more than one. Sometimes, like there's 3 there so close, I couldn't really cut them all apart without probably damaging them. So there's very often more than one eye on a chunk, but if you cut off a chunk that has no eyes, that will not grow into a new potato. But instead of just planting that as all one potato, I can make that one into 4 different chunks here at least, and each one of those has more than one eye, so they are all going to grow with no problem at all. And that's what I'm doing here. And some potatoes you can, just because of their size or shape or the eye location, sometimes you can cut them into more or less, but I usually get somewhere between like 2 to 5 different potato chunks to start out of each individual one. So I'm cutting them out now, and if you've ever sliced a fresh potato, this inside cut edge, you'll notice, is kind of moist and slimy. I actually want that to kind of get a scab on it and heal over before I put these on the dirt, so that, especially if I get more cold weather and they don't get sprouting right away, I don't want the potato to just rot into the ground and compost back into the soil. I want it to grow. So I'm spreading them out in this These are just some flats I have from various other plants I've started. I'm just spreading them out in that, or you could do a cardboard box or whatever, you know, something that holds them to let air circulate around them. And I'm not going to plant them today. I might plant them tomorrow if it's not snowing, or one of the next days. But I want to let all these cut edges be exposed to air for a little while so that they can get kind of a scab on. You'll notice instead of, you know, by even tonight, instead of feeling wet and slimy when I touch that edge, it'll start to kind of dry out on the cut sides. And that's what I want to have happen, so that they are a little tougher to sit in the ground for a while, in case they can't start growing right away. And that's not a bad idea to do no matter what climate you're in. So these that I'm working on right now are red potatoes that are red skins and creamy white on the inside. There are red or pink ones that are you know, pink the whole way through the flesh. Those are really cool. I just have a really hard time getting a hold of any seed potatoes here like that. I have grown them before, and you can make this awesome like fuchsia pink mashed potatoes. They're fun. If you can access those, and there's some that are bright purple the whole way through. Hey, my potatoes. They're not your toys. Leave it. Good boy. Good boy. You got your toys to play with. You can chew on that, but not on my potatoes. So I'm just going to cut all these up here, and then, like I said, I'm going to let them sit for a day or two. Leave it. Good boy. A day or two or 3, depending on what the weather does. If I can plant tomorrow, I'll probably plant them tomorrow. They'll be scabbed over enough by then. And I will show you that when I do. This guy's got so many starts growing out of his eyes there. He's hard to even cut apart. I have all total about 13 pounds of potatoes that I'm planting. And so obviously I'm hoping to grow many more. Well, it applies to the new ones too. Not just the first one I said you can't touch, it applies to all of them. Hoping to grow many more potatoes than that. Which does bring me to one of the other questions I get asked all the time. People look at the size of my garden and they say, oh my goodness, do you sell at the local farmer's market? Where do you store your food? You know, what do you do with all that? Because that's a huge garden. Well, it's not that big, for one. And 2, none of my stuff produces as much per plant as you will probably get if you live somewhere warmer. I'll talk about this when I show you a little more detail about how I've planted things, but I plant things a little closer than generally recommended distances, just because I know in my short growing season, if it tells me to plant cabbage heads 24 inches apart, I've grown these in Pennsylvania. You know, a cabbage head will get this big. But I know for a fact, in my climate, they're not going to get that big before it freezes. I'm going to get nice little heads this big, which is fine. But, so I do get less total production per plant than you would if you had a little longer growing season. So for one, I plant a little thicker. I plant my plants closer together than you otherwise would, because I know they're not going to need that much space. And the last thing is I eat a lot of veggies. I'm not a vegetarian. You know, if you've watched my cooking videos, you know I eat meat as well, but I do eat a lot of veggies. I would say my diet is vegetable based and very veggie heavy. And so that is what I do with most of it. Almost everything I grow, I eat fresh. If I can grow enough of something to have extra, more than I can eat fresh, which is wonderful, then I do preserve them, depending what the thing is. And hopefully if I have time, I'll try to do some videos illustrating that this year. It just tends to all happen at a time of year when I'm so busy, it's hard to get videos done. But depending what the item is, I do can or freeze or ferment or dehydrate or whatever things to store. Ideally, long term, I would like to have a much larger garden and a little warmer area, and be able to grow enough food that I really can eat my own vegetables all winter long and into the spring, and until I have new veggies growing the next spring. I can't quite do that here. I don't have enough space, and I don't have enough, there's things I can't grow, and then there's just the limitations on space and volume. But in general, the answer is that everything I grow, I eat. Occasionally I share stuff with friends or whatever, but no, I don't sell at a farmer's market. And for the most part, very few things do I actually get enough of to have extra to preserve. I always am shooting for that, and hopefully the new garden beds, that guy's really only got one eye. Well, he's got a little eye. If I'm able to produce more and protect it from the rodents, then I would love to have a little more extra to preserve if possible. But we'll have to see. Before I get too excited about any of that, it's got to quit snowing out there. So I'm just going to go through the rest of my bags of potatoes, cut these up just to recap. That's what you're looking for. You want at least one eye, and every now and then you get one like this where it's growing vigorously out of one spot. There's a little tiny eye right there. It's not doing anything much, but I'm going to cut that once, see if that one will grow if I take his other mate away. And then it is helpful if you can have the time to let the cut edges dry out just a little bit on your potatoes before planting them, so that they get a little bit of a scab across that cut raw surface. And then tomorrow, or whenever the weather allows, I will show you how I plant them. Hopefully that's helpful if you have never planted potatoes before. And as always, if you haven't, I highly encourage you to learn something about gardening and growing your own food, because it's fun. It's one of the most fun activities. It's good physical exercise for your health. The food is good for you. It can save money, and it's just an awesome skill to learn how to do if you don't already know. So, and it's learning more about gardening, I think, is a lifelong process. There's always more things that can be learned over experience from many, many years. So that's my encouragement to you. Whether you want to grow potatoes or something else, grow something this year with whatever you can do, wherever you are, whether that's a pot on a windowsill or a couple pots on a deck or a gigantic backyard full. Hopefully that's helpful. Oh yeah, and I forgot, while I'm doing this, I'm working on drinking my fresh from the outdoors, wild foraged nettle and mint tea. Well, the nettle's wild, the mint was cultivated. But this is awesome. I did a video on how to make that too, if you want to give that a try. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you are here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.